China bragging about human rights? Are you joking? So according to this official tweet from the Chinese mission to the UN, China has stellar, exemplary, amazing human rights. This is mendacious. It's a bunch of codswallop. It's like an illiterate man who cannot spell his own name, bragging about being able to read 12 different languages and also claiming that he's read the entire works of Shakespeare in an hour. China is not a human rights champion and has a very, very long way to go and a lot to prove before they can claim to even understand what human rights are. So in the tweet they claim to protect and promote the human rights for all its people, and these are the reasons they give. So let's go through them one by one. Number 1. Ensuring subsistence for 1.4 billion people. You do hear this a lot. Everyone's saying, oh, you know, there's so many people in China and the government makes sure everyone is okay. Guess what? No. The government gets in the way of people being okay and has done so for a very long time. It's not the government that allows these people to be subsistence. It's the people themselves. The hardworking Chinese people that can ku, you know, they can deal with very harsh conditions. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've traveled through rural Guizhou. Never mind Guizhou. I've traveled through rural China on my motorcycle. I've seen most of China. In the rural parts of China, it's not pretty. I'm talking about dirt roads, no infrastructure, lack of water and electricity in some places. Very, very, very poor people. You see barefoot children, you see people eating rats, you see people, you know, just living in the most sort of ridiculous amount of poverty. And you have to understand that when they keep going on about the fact that they've raised people out of poverty, which we'll get to soon, you have to understand that when China says that somebody is being lifted out of poverty, what they mean is they lowered that benchmark for poverty. They mean that somebody is living on around 90 cents per day. And then they say that that's above poverty. I'm sorry, but 90 cents a day is not a lot of money. And I've seen with my own eyes just how bad the countryside can get as far as people being poor is concerned. These people in the rural countryside, which still make up the majority of the people in China, are living the most impoverished sort of lifestyle you can imagine. The difference is, though, is that they can handle it. They deal with it. They don't complain. They put their head down. They keep going. And that's the strength of the Chinese people, is to be able to endure hardships like most people couldn't and just keep on going and keep doing their thing. So I'm sorry, but that's not the Chinese government that's done anything for human rights there. In fact, the Chinese government has made it worse for these people, trying to force all this urbanization, taking over the farmlands, trying to force people out of their farms. Countless times I've spoken to local farmers in their areas, and they're all complaining that the government's coming to knock down their little village, going to build a dam that's going to flood their village. They have to be forcefully removed. They cannot complain. There's no avenue for them to do anything other than to take a meager compensation from the Chinese government and move on to some crappy concrete block somewhere and basically try and survive now without a farm to work on and without any kind of way to really provide for themselves. Number 2, the claim of lifting 850 million people out of poverty. This is the CCP's party trick. Anytime you're having a conversation with anybody who favors the CCP or is a Sinophile, or you know, somebody who just wants to prove a point that communism works or whatever the case, they'll pull this little statistic out of the hat. Hey, guess what? China lifted 850 million people out of poverty. Wrong. What people seem to forget is that those people were plunged into poverty in the first place by the exact same government that everybody claims lifted them out of it. Now, granted, before the CCP took over, there was war. There was all sorts of crap going on in China. But we cannot forget that China had a very robust agrarian system when it comes to farming. The landlords, the way everything was worked out, distributing food, the way everything worked, it worked before the communists took over. Then they came in with their stupid policies, with these communes, with their great leap backwards in the cultural devolution. All this crap about, you know, purging the landlords, getting rid of intellectuals, all this kind of nonsense, killing all the sparrows so that locusts came and ate all the grain. And ended up starving tens of millions of Chinese people, destroying families and systems that had been in place for hundreds, if not thousands of years, turning everything upside down and creating all of this turmoil and poverty in the first place. Then the claim that they lifted the people out of poverty really pisses me off, because it wasn't the government that lifted the people out of poverty. It was a combination of two things. Number one, the hardworking Chinese people who can endure all this hardship and crap. And number two, the rest of the world opening up to China, giving aid, investing, allowing Chinese companies to sell things to the rest of the world, preferential trade deals, preferential status, giving them the easy path and the easy way, an easy way to earn money and bring money into the country. That money didn't materialize out of nowhere. It's not like the government was like, here's money to lift everyone out of poverty. No. It was the rest of the world saying, take our money for your cheap labor. Take our money and our investments so that we can set up our factories in your country. Take our aid. Look it up. You'll be surprised at just how much foreign aid has been sent to China over the years. Not only in money, but food. And, whenever there's been a problem, the rest of the world stands up, does their part, and gives charity to China. Look it up. It's not the CCP that did this. It was a combination. In fact, the CCP was standing in the way of allowing Chinese people to rise up. It was their stupid communist policies that stopped people from rising up. As soon as Deng Xiaoping opened up the borders and said, hey, let's actually start to deal with the rest of the world. Yes, you can do business. Yes, you can deal with the rest of the world. The average Chinese person who works really hard, they finally had a way. They finally had a way to raise themselves out of poverty. Number three, they claim providing jobs for 770 million Chinese people. Again, no, the CCP did not provide those jobs. There would be a fraction of those jobs available. What would you do? Just be a part of the Communist Party, oversee this, do some crap here, count grains of rice. I don't know. There wouldn't be a hell of a lot to do if it wasn't for the fact that China is the world's factory. That's where the jobs are coming from, right? The jobs are there because these big companies and these big factories, and now these homegrown companies in China that operate off of technology that was taken from the West or given from the West, they would not exist. Of course there would be jobs, of course there would be things to do, but guess what? The majority of those jobs have all come from this working together with the rest of the world, and the rest of the world working with China. If the rest of the world did not work with China, those jobs would not exist. At least the vast majority of them would not. And I think anyone who has even an ounce of intelligence would be able to understand that that's the case. Anyway, I'm getting worked up here because I'm sick and tired of China taking this sort of muscle flexing view of saying, look how well we do this, look how well we do that, look how great we are, we're great at human rights, when plainly they're not. They are making bold-faced lies to you and the world, and everybody's just standing there and saying, okay then, come on guys, wake up. If they're going to lie about things as simple as this, they're lying about everything. Do not trust what the CCP says. To think that China could lead anyone is scary. Let me put it to you this way. If you're going to survive in the wilderness, would you rather trust somebody who has years of skills and experience surviving in the wilderness, who's been proven to do so? Or would you trust some teenager who once saw an episode of Survivor and now thinks he's an expert and keeps on bragging about how cool he is? I don't think so. Especially when you find out that that teenager allowed his own parents to die of starvation because he forgot to feed them. You get my point. Human rights are a massive issue in China. I'm not going to go into details because you've heard about the concentration camps of the Uyghurs, the bannings of religion, the fact that you can be disappeared if you make the wrong opinion. But just think about it. If a movie star like Fan Bingbing can just disappear for months because the government doesn't like the fact that she may have not paid her taxes. If a human rights lawyer or anybody a journalist, for instance, can just get nabbed up for writing an article. If you, just like me, make a post on social media, whether it be on your WeChat group to your friends. If it's on your Facebook, well, that's blocked in China anyway. But if you make a kind of a critical post on anything and somebody sees it and reports you, or if a government person sees that, you can get detained and taken away. There are no human rights involved here. Your assets can be frozen in a second if they want to. If you're a foreigner like myself, you can just be disappeared or deported or whatever on a whim. Doesn't matter how much you've invested in the country. Doesn't matter if you have family there, etc., etc. There are no basic human rights underlying all this. Sure, China looks free. It looks great. If you, like me, when I first got there, I thought this place was fantastic. You can walk around and drink a beer in public and chill out and kind of everyone just gets along. But when you live there long enough and you get entrenched enough into the culture, you start to see the very fundamental issues, the real big underlying problems. And that is, you never truly are free. That house that you have spent your entire fortune on is only leased for 70 years. It's not yours. It still belongs to the country. All of your assets can be frozen in a second if they want to. All they need to do is say that you have disrupted the harmony of society and you can be done in for anything. So piss off the wrong person, make the wrong political comment, expose the wrong thing, do the wrong thing, just, I don't know, date the wrong woman or man, and life can be over for you. China has no place bragging about human rights. And the fact that they've managed to entrench themselves in places like the UN and various other very large organizations. We saw what happened with the WHO, how they pressured them to trumpet China when in fact China was hiding a lot and really being a bad player in the beginning of the COVID-19 Wuhan flu thing. We've seen how bad that is because everyone just takes them at face value. And I'm getting desperate here, guys. I just don't understand why it is people just keep falling for this crap. Anyway, I did want to read a fantastic reply by the Dispropaganda Twitter, who said, let me finish that human rights list for you. Murdering 60 to 100 million people, occupying Tibet, rolling tanks over protesters in Tiananmen, oppressing Hong Kong, Muslims in concentration camps, denying basic human rights to 1.4 billion people. Yes, China, fix your crap before you want to go out there and brag about being so great. You've got a long way to go. Everybody knows it, except you apparently. You're not fooling me, and hopefully you're not fooling anyone else. Till next time, guys, you know the drill. As always, stay awesome.